Now, more than 40% of rape claims are not recorded as crimes in some areas. That's according to an investigation for the BBC. Those figures were obtained from police forces in England under Freedom of Information rules. Well, women's groups say that rape victims are being denied justice, and a review is being promised next year into the way rape allegations are handled by both police and prosecutors. Well, Matt Cole has this report.
Last year, this woman was raped by a colleague, but says the police just seem to lose interest.
I was asked repeatedly about whether or not I wanted to drop the case. So it just got to the point where I thought that they didn't believe me, that I just decided to tear my entire world apart.
The attack on Sarah was at least recorded, but we've now used Freedom of Information rules to ask every constabulary in the country about the cases they don't pursue, and found wide regional variations in the number of claims removed from official records or not even recorded as crimes in the first place.
Between April 2007 and March 2008, there were 2,701 claims of rape in London, but 32% didn't end up recorded as crimes. In Northumbria, there were 382 reports of rape. 45% never made it into official Home Office figures. In Humberside, Gloucestershire and Northamptonshire, at least 90% were recorded for investigation. But in Durham, high numbers again, 41% didn't end up on the official system. There are rules allowing cases to be deleted from the records, what's known as no criming. For instance, if it's proved a woman lied, and other guidelines do allow forces discretion about not recording claims as crimes. But campaigners say it's happening too often and are sure something's wrong.
Those statistics prove what our daily experience is, which is that the police really don't prioritise rape. They often don't want to prosecute. They don't collect the evidence. They often lose the evidence when it is collected.
Her Majesty's Inspectorate of Constabularies has seen our figures and says no criming rates don't necessarily prove bad practice. It could indicate unacceptable recording practices, which would be of concern. The Association of Chief Police Officers also says it's important to them that all victims feel confident they can report crimes, knowing their cases will be treated properly and sensitively. Matt Cole, BBC News.
Well, Lisa Longstaff from Women Against Rape joins me now in the studio. Lisa, thanks for being with us. What did you make of these figures?
Even to us, you know, with our 30-year history of campaigning on this issue, they're pretty shocking. But we have known for a long time, because so many women bring to us complaints about how the cases are not followed up properly, they're not investigated properly. And, you know, that largely seems to stem from the police making an early decision that you're just not worth the bother. You know, either they're prejudiced against you because you've been drinking, or you say you've been drugged and they don't do the tests early enough, or you're dismissed because you're not respectable. Maybe you've worked something to do with the sex industry, or you have a history of mental illness, or the man is related to you. You know, often if it's a family member or your own husband, those are the cases that are most likely to be disregarded. Or you face racism because you're black or immigrant.
But some of those things that you've raised do show how very difficult rape is to investigate, because of the fact that often it's one person's word against another, which makes it much harder to go around collecting evidence as such.
Well, the more that myth is perpetuated, you know, and it is put out a lot by the police and the Crown Prosecution Service, they're acting as judge and jury in these cases when they should be putting them to court and letting the jury decide who do they believe, is it him or her. But largely we have found that many of the cases are being lost along the way at any stage, because the police have not gathered the evidence that is available. I mean, we've helped women make complaints where the police haven't even done any tests, any forensic tests. You know, the woman's handed in her underwear. She's described perfectly what the scene of the crime was. Sometimes it's her own bedroom. And the police simply haven't bothered to get any scientific tests done. They haven't gathered CCTV evidence. You know, women have actually submitted that kind of stuff themselves. And it's pretty outrageous, you know, that onus is on women who report largely, often motivated by the fear that the man's going to attack someone else or attack other women. And that's exactly what happened, you know, when we saw the Warboys and Reed and Southwark cases earlier this year. There was such a pattern of neglect and negligence, and in some cases downright hostility and disbelief.
So what has to happen next? It was interesting, we were speaking earlier to a former member of the Metropolitan Police who said he was amazed because so much has been done on rape, and that many people would think that these kind of attitudes no longer exist, and yet you're saying this is a cultural thing that's going on.
Well, the attitudes clearly do, and I think it's a question of policy. You know, the priority has not been made that rape is a priority, as is often claimed, and even senior police officers have sometimes said themselves they are policy rich and implementation poor. And that means the PR's good, you know, they've made a lot of good things on paper, but nobody seems to be willing to make sure those things are carried out and to take some concerted action against those officers who don't carry out their jobs. And after all, that's what we're paying them for as the public. They're supposed to protect us. And the most important crimes are crimes against the person, not crimes of property, which is often what seems to be prioritised.
OK, Lisa, thanks very much. Lisa Longstaff from Women Against Rape.